So, there's been a lot of chatter about Ruben Amorim getting sacked from his job at Man United almost since the minute he joined this club. It started with the ex-players who didn't think that a three at the back formation fit within the DNA of the club, and it has consistently gone downhill from there, with the other trolls in the media piling on after we lost game after game last season. And then came the crushing defeat in the Europa League to a Tottenham team that hadn't won a trophy for 17 years. I felt like that was the final nail in the coffin for so many United fans, including some of the most popular fan channels that are out there. And it feels like the negativity has gone from being about the formation to being about the system to Amorim himself about being a crap coach and that he can't cut it at this top level. So even when we turned a new leaf into this season, and despite everyone agreeing that United has the toughest fixture list to kick the season off, people wanted him sacked after the Grimsby loss because we lost to Arsenal and we drew to Fulham. Then we also wanted him sacked after the Manchester derby, and most recently after the away defeat to Brentford. It has gotten so bad that some fans actually want us to lose games just so that Ruben Amorim can get sacked and we can bring in the likes of Oliver Glasner, Andoni Iraola, or Eddie Howe to the club. And frankly, I am a little sick of this specific brand of negativity because I feel like it's based on very surface level analysis. Oh, Palace, Bournemouth, and Newcastle have done better in the league than us since Amorim joined United, so their manager must be amazing while our manager is garbage. So I'm here today to show you guys why Oliver Glasner is a great manager and he has a great system, but that it will never actually work at United. And I'm going to base my arguments on some spicy statistics that will help you understand why some of the Amorim haters will eventually turn on Glasner as well, because we've seen a similar brand of football at United before. So make sure you watch till the end of the video and get in the comments with your thoughts. Did you know that only 17% of people watching this video are subscribed to the channel? So if you're enjoying the content, please drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel to show your support. Now let's get on to the rest of the video. So this right here is Glasner's 3-4-3 or 3-4-2-1 system with which he beat Liverpool 2-1 at home a few weeks ago. On paper, it looks very similar to Amorim's system with the two wing backs to provide width, the two narrow 10s, and the three center backs that get very involved in the initial build-up. Even in terms of in-game mechanics, there are a lot of similarities to Ruben Amorim's philosophy because Glasner wants his team to make quick vertical passes into the two 10s and the striker so that the other attacking players can bounce off of them and get in behind the opposition's defense. This system is first designed to disrupt the opposition's defensive shape as they have to come out of position and actually mark some of these front players, right? So maybe Konate has to come out to mark Pino, and Cardi B has to come out and mark Mateta. And in that way, by getting out of position, there's more space being created in behind because their fullbacks are also often very high. So this space opens up for Pino and Sarr and Mateta to exploit when Liverpool are in attack. The similarities in the two systems, though, end right there because there are two crucial ways in which Glasner's system differs from Amorim's. The first, and possibly most important distinction, is that Oliver Glasner prefers to initiate his press from a mid-block instead of doing it from higher up the pitch. What that means is that he's going to have his team be very narrow and conservative and wait for Liverpool to come up with the ball, let's say into their half, before they initiate the press. So they'll let Konate or Cardi B have the ball as much as they want to till they come up to around this area, and then Pino, Sarr, and Mateta will initiate the press to win the ball back, and that creates all this space in behind the center backs for Crystal Palace to exploit. And specifically in Liverpool's case, or Man City's case, or any of these big teams that like to have a lot of possession, the fullbacks are also very high up, right? So this is creating extra 3v2 or 4v3 opportunities for Crystal Palace once they win the ball back in their own half. The second distinction with Amorim's system is that Glasner's teams rarely dominate possession. In fact, even when we go back to his time in charge of Wolfsburg and Eintracht Frankfurt, he has never averaged more than 51% possession over a full season. When we look at Crystal Palace, having joined them midway through the 24-25 season, he finished with less than 43% possession, which was the 17th best in the Premier League last year. This season, whilst they're sitting in 6th place after 7 games, looking like a real contender for top 4, they have the 3rd worst average possession percentage in the Premier League at 41%. So let's take a look at how these two distinct differences play out in an actual game with some screenshots of the Liverpool game. We start here with Cardi B on the ball, and he's looking to switch the ball out to Bradley at right back here. Notice how Palace are happy to sit back in this 5-4-1 shape when they're out of possession. Notice how deep they are within their own half, allowing Liverpool to be comfortable with possession and bring it out all the way up to this area of the pitch. And before we go to the next screenshot, I want you guys to pay particular attention to Tyreek Mitchell, the left back, who's on Salah here, and Guehi, who's kind of in the middle between those two players here. As the ball is switched towards Bradley over here, Mitchell leaves his post with Salah and tries to press Bradley to win this aerial duel. And then Guehi moves from this area into Salah so that, their markings aren't messed up. And you still only have Mateta on the two center backs here. And you have Pino, the left-sided 10, who's ready to pounce if Mitchell wins this ball back and they can attack into this space. Now, unfortunately for Liverpool, Mitchell is able to intercept that long pass, and Pino and Mitchell are free to attack in tons of space here, with Mateta being one-on-one with Konate and Cardi B being off-screen here. Now, as we go forward a few seconds, look at how many gaps there are in the Liverpool defensive structure. They are all over the place, just worried to death about conceding a counter-attacking goal. A big gap here between Konate and Cardi B, a big gap here between Cardi B and Kirkez, and a huge gap between the defensive line here and the midfield over here. Now, Mitchell and Pino have the ball over here. They managed to do a nice 1-2 and get Mitchell free at the edge of the box here, but unfortunately he scuffs the cross and it's a corner for Crystal Palace. We need to give Glasner his flowers here, right? He's made the reigning league champions absolutely shit themselves on their first counterattack of the game, and it comes from a relatively uncomplicated set of instructions to his players. Their goal is to sit back near the edge of the defensive third, not too deep, but certainly not in the opponent's half either, and wait for a loose touch from someone before they initiate the press from the mid-block. Once they win the ball back, just break on the opposition with your fast front three and your wing-backs, and it's a great system that works wonders for a team like Crystal Palace. Now let's see another example of the two key differences between Glasner and Amorim. Here we see Palace is already 1-0 up, and again, Liverpool are allowed to push up the field, and they are setting up in a 5-4-1 shape with the left wing back on Salah and the two center mids relatively compact in the middle, with Pino being the only one who's out pressing Konate because it's on his side of the pitch. As the ball goes out to Bradley and comes back into Konate, you see Pino getting back into the midfield 4 shape with the two central midfielders and Ismail Assar, but Kamada and Pino, the left side of that midfield, is ready to pounce on the next pass that comes from Konate. So whether it goes to Bradley or it goes to Szoboszlai, these guys are ready to go and press that person. But unfortunately for Liverpool, Konate ends up dilly-dallying on the ball a little too long, and Kamada knocks it loose, so Mateta is free to attack this space, pretty much being one-on-one with Cardi B. And now the problem for Liverpool is the pace of Sarr compared to McAllister, because Kirkez is bombed so far up the pitch that he's basically their left winger. And you have Kamada and Pino, who are beyond Bradley on the left-hand side for Palace, so they essentially have a 4v2 advantage on the attack. In the next frame, Mateta finally gets this under control, and again, watch how panicked Liverpool are. Konate has come across from the right-hand side to cover Mateta's run, and Cardi B is twerking his way back to be the last man towards the edge of the box. So Ismail Assar, who, by the way, is one of the fastest players in the Premier League, has so much room to get onto the right-hand side that he can pretty much do whatever he wants. And Sarr gets on the end of it, gets to the end of the box, he cuts it back for Pino, who fires a shot low to Alisson's right-hand side, and I can only describe this as a world-class save, because this shot had a post-shot expected goal of 0.78. So Alisson literally saved Liverpool's marbles here by not letting them go 2-0 down. So like I said in the intro, Glasner is without a doubt a great manager to coach this type of stuff against the title holders. But the question is, can he do this week in, week out at a club like Manchester United? It's not about the quality of players, because I think outside the two midfielders, the right wing back and Guehi as left center back, United probably have the better team right now. My point is that it wouldn't really be acceptable for United to play a whole season with 40% possession. Here's a quote I heard from an Athletic FC podcast recently where someone said, "A club like Man United needs to be the protagonist in football games. As in, the onus needs to be on us to go and enforce our philosophy onto the other team. Because our ambitions are to have the best players and play the best football and to go win the biggest trophies. We can't do that by playing counterattacking football for 38 games." And I know some of you are sitting there saying, "Oh yeah, but Glasner is an adaptable coach who can change his formation and his system at United and play high possession football." Here's a quote from a Coach's Voice article on Oliver Glasner, which is the organization that does those masterclass videos that you'll see on YouTube. "Glasner teams rarely dominate possession. They have never averaged more than 51% across the season. At Wolfsburg, he even changed his formation from a 3-4-2-1 to a 4-2-3-1 midway through his first season. And this kind of shows you the adaptability piece that everybody admires when comparing Glasner to Amorim. But the article goes on to say, however, the attacking movements from the back four almost mirrored those of a back three. The back line tried to be efficient and penetrate with their passing, quickly looking to find teammates between the lines or hit the spaces behind the opposition." So even in the back four, there's evidence of the fact that his system or philosophy stays the same, even though his starting formation changes from 3 at the back to 4 at the back. So all of this is telling me two obvious things. Those of you guys wanting Amorim to change his system are actually just talking about the formation to change. And even if you see the adaptable Oliver Glasner come to United and start in a 4-2-3-1 like most of you want, you're going to see us playing in a 3-4-2-1 or a 3-4-3 in possession. So maybe we should back it up a little bit and go easy on the Glasner is much more adaptable piece. The other big concern I have with Glasner is across the last 6 years at clubs like Wolfsburg, Frankfurt, and Crystal Palace, he has consistently played with low possession by setting up in a mid-block and then counterattacking. How exactly are you expecting him to come to United and just start playing with 60% possession? If you want to believe in his ability to just figure it out on the fly, that's fair enough, but you have to admit that your argument is grounded in faith and conjecture, not actual proof. If you're still not convinced with my arguments so far, let's take a look at some key stats. Right, so here's a graph that's looking at the correlation between possession and points per game in Europe's top 5 leagues since 2015-16. Shout out to the Athletic FC podcast crew that discussed this in detail, but the key trend here that I want to discuss is that more possession tends to equal more points across the best leagues in Europe. And this trend is over the last 10 years, so it's not like we're looking at a small sample size. If you want to win the league with less than 50% possession, while it's not impossible, you have exactly 5 teams in this little quadrant here that have been able to get more than 2 points per game. And over a 38-game league season, that's anywhere between, say, 80 to 95 points, which is what you would need to win the Premier League, right? I want you guys to appreciate how much of an outlier you actually need to be to pull this off. You really need to do something that no other team has done to win any of Europe's top 5 leagues with low possession. And it's almost impossible to do this in the Premier League, with this specific dot being the Leicester team that won it in 2015-16 with 42.4% average possession. If you look at the other end of the spectrum, however, look at how many teams with more than 60% possession have gotten more than 2 points per game. There's got to be at least 30 teams in this one quadrant here who have more than 60% possession and more than 2 points per game. So this data doesn't really lie. To have the best chance of success in any of the top 5 leagues, you need to play high possession football, ideally more than 60% across a full season. And you need to have a system that is naturally designed to do so. If we look at Amorim right now in this season, he's managed an average of 53% possession, which is not great. But if you go back to Amorim's coaching history, in the 2020-2021 season, Amorim won Sporting their first title in 19 years with almost 58% possession. Then in the next season, he finished second to Porto with 60% possession. In the 22-23 season, he finished fourth with 63% possession. In the season after that, he won his second title for Sporting with almost 60% possession. And in the last season, when he left halfway through to come to United, Sporting still went on to win the title with 61% possession. So in the last 5 years, Amorim has managed a 3 at the back system with an average of 60% possession, winning 2 league titles in that time, and coaching a team that ended up winning the 3rd title as well. While Glasner has coached mostly 3 at the back systems with an average of 47% possession. And don't get me wrong, he's done extremely well at all 3 clubs by getting Wolfsburg to 4th, winning Frankfurt the Europa League, and winning the FA Cup with Crystal Palace. But based on all the evidence that we've seen so far regarding his style of play, I'm not convinced that Oliver Glasner will be a success at Man United, especially if our goal is to eventually win the Premier League. It's just not the right style of play. We have a better chance to do that with a coach that has a history of coaching high possession, winning football. And the current coach of United already does that. What do you guys think? Get in the comments below with your thoughts. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.